All right, so like I said, we're going to be talking about the uh, Flex mobile app today. So I like to point out that is the first icon that you're seeing here. If you can find it in the App Store and Google Play, it is just called Flex Mobile. Uh, Search Red Team Flex, Flex Mobile, any of those terms should pop it up, but it is going to look like that first icon we see here with the red Team logo that says Flex. Now I'll go ahead and click into it. If it is your first time logging in or first time opening it, it is going to ask you to log in. It is going to be the same login credentials that you use for the web version. So exact same info you're going to put in there. If you're on a personal device, feel free to stay logged in. It's actually not going to affect anything, not impact anything else. Absolutely fine. Just keep yourself logged in there. However, if you're on a shared device, it might be a good idea to log out when you're done using it. And from the very top right corner, you're going to see those three lines. If you click on those three lines down at the bottom, you will see your logout option. So if you do want to log out, you could do so from there. Now, here on this home screen, we're going to have a few options. The first two, open camera, go to gallery, those are really just shortcuts. From there, you can upload a progress photo, a picture of a receipt, any kind of photo you're trying to upload. Like I said, you have a shortcut from there. We'll talk about where you can do those things elsewhere. That third option is scan location. In the web version, you can create locations of a job site, kind of like sub-locations, and you'll be allowed to print out a QR code for each location. You can then post those QR codes on the physical job site, or you can then click this scan location button and scan that QR code. And it's going to pop up with any request for corrections in that area. So if you go to a certain location, scan the QR code, you can take a look at, all right, what do I need to check in? What's getting done here? Now, down at the bottom, we're going to have a black bar at the bottom there with three options. It says projects, time, and expenses. We're going to go ahead and start with projects. We'll go over projects first. I'm going to tap on that projects button, and it's going to bring you to the last project that you were working in. If I wanted to get into a different project, I can actually see the project number and name up at the top. I can click that drop down arrow on the left, and it'll pop open with my favorites project list. So any of my projects that are favorited, I'll be able to select here. If the project I'm looking for is not on this list, it probably just means that it's not on my favorites list, which is completely fine. In that case, just use the search bar right down below. You can search by name or number. You'll be able to find your project. We're going to go ahead and keep with this one, though. And we're just going to go down this list over all the different options you have here. First one just being project profile. This one's actually really simple. It's really just kind of the profile page of the online plan room. We're going to see any job site photos that are showing in the plan room, the current on-site weather, and then the Google Maps work location and some contact information for the project manager if you need to reach out to them. But speaking of contact information, going back, the next line down is going to be the team list. This is a great place to find contact information for your vendors. I think that's the big part of it. But it's going to show all of your team members, all of your customer contacts, your service provider. That'll be anyone from your company. Let's go ahead and minimize that one. But then we can see third party and vendors. Maybe I need to reach out to Valerie here from Extra Solar. I can click on her name and her contact information is going to come up. Looks like we just have an email on file, but if I also had a phone number, all of that information would be available. And I could give her a call with that info. All right, but then going back and down one from the team tab, what I think is one of the kind of the biggest usage of the mobile app that we have is going to be your progress reports. If I were to click on progress, I'd be able to view any of my previous reports. I can see that little 74 next to the word progress. I currently have 74 progress reports on this project. I could go back and take a look at those. Or I want to start working on today's report. I'm going to tap on that blue button that says today's progress. And it's going to open up with all the different parts of my progress reports. Now, you can start anywhere you want to on this. If I want to go ahead and get the weather uploaded or do my observations, whatever I want to do, I could start there. I am just going to start at the top and work my way down. Once you add the first bit of information to the progress report, it's going to create that report for you. Like I said, we're going to start up at the top. So we're going to go to the census first of all. Census is going to be your work on site. So who was on site today? What did they do? That's where we can get this info in. So I'm going to go ahead and click the add button. And first fill this out. For what company am I filling this out for? I'll just select Extra Solar, one of my vendors here. I'll have the ability to rate the company, select a subscope, select a task. Task is going to pull from the Gantt schedule. So you'd be able to select what task from the schedule are they working on. Location, so where on the job site are they? And then we're going to ask this question. This is kind of an example question we have here called worker type. This is a very customizable question. You can change this and how this is asked in the configuration menu of the web version. But essentially what we're wanting to know with this question is the hours that I'm about to put in. Is this included in productivity or not? The example we gave to ask this question is worker types. And if I click that, I'm going to have the option of laborer, heavy equipment operator, supervisor. Those three would be included in productivity, as where admin staff and visitors, that would be excluded from productivity. But I'll go ahead and say laborer. That was who was on site today. And then under activity, if I tap on that, that's going to be a text field. Here's where I can type in kind of exactly what was said, or what was that, exactly what they did today, where they were working, what were they doing. So the task allows you to select an item from the Gantt schedule. Activity is a text field to put in exactly what's getting done. But then below that is going to be workers. So here's where you're going to enter in the number of workers. I'll say there were 2 people from this company that were on site today. Total hours, they both worked for 8 hours. So that's going to be a total of 16 hours from this company for today. Once I have all that filled out, I can go ahead and click save. And that's going to save in that census data, where if I want to start working on the next company, I can click that plus sign down at the bottom and fill it out again. Now, going back, something I want to point out, if you were to click on progress, instead of going to today's progress, click on progress. One, I can see today's date on that first progress report right there. We're getting this one filled out. But with the census report, a lot of times on the standard kind of day-to-day, it's of the same group of people that were on site yesterday that were today, with some minor differences maybe. If that's the case, instead of filling out that census from scratch every single day, click this plus sign, and then you can click that second option that says copy from prior progress. That's going to allow you to copy over the census from the previous day's progress report into today's report. You can make changes from there. So if maybe there were 3 people on site instead of 2, I could go in and make that change, update their activity, but it's going to give you a better starting point than just starting from scratch each time. So just note that that is an option available to you. All right, and then going back into today's progress though, we did our census. Next thing I want to do is add some photos. So these will be your job site photos. I'll go ahead and click add. And it's going to give me 2 options here, open camera or go to gallery. I'm just going to go ahead and open up my camera. Let's see, I'll just take a picture of my desk right here. And we can get that photo uploaded. Do be sure to scroll down to the bottom and add a description. Just kind of what you took a photo of. We'll just call it sample. And then I could click save. It'll bring me back into today's or into the progress reports, but I'll just go back to today's report, and then I can go and add more photos. I do like to notice or point out that was kind of a one photo I took and uploaded there. I do think it's a little easier if we go go to your gallery, open up your gallery and select. You can select up to 15 photos at one time. You can still upload as many as you need to, so 15 at one time. But going back from photos, we'll hop down once more and take a look at equipment utilization. So in RedTeam Flex, on the equipment tab, you'll be able to create any equipment that your company owns or is renting. We'll keep those separate for you. You can then assign that equipment out to a user as a custodian, kind of who's responsible for it, and to a job site. If you've done that, you'll be able to track the utilization here in your progress reports. So I can tap on equipment utilization, and any equipment that's been signed out to this job is going to be listed here for me. We can see I have a cat that's been signed out, where I can come in and next to utilization, it says tap here. So I can click that. And it's asking me for my utilization in hours. So I can say, hey, I used it for 4 hours today. And then below, I can enter any notes regarding the equipment utilization. So here's what we did with it. Here's what it got used for. And then I can click save. So we can track that utilization. Then back into today's progress. We'll just keep going down that list. Next one's going to be the weather. If I can click on weather, it is going to pull the forecast for your area for the weather. It will be based off of zip code, and it's going to autofill that. So just take a look at that, make sure it looks correct. If not, if there's something wrong, forecasts aren't always perfect, you can absolutely change any of this information down here. Maybe it did actually rain today. I'm going to say there was an inch of rain. We're going to save in what you type in. We're just going to autofill from the forecast to make it a little easier. But then click save. And back to today's progress. Last thing on here is going to be your observations. I can go ahead and click that drop down. These will be all the questions that you ask on your progress report that you want to fill out. Any general comments? Do I have any general comments on today? I could click on that, type in my general comments and save those. Were there any delays in work progress, any deliveries? Like I said, I can tap on any of those, fill them out, be good to go. One thing I want to point out, we have this option here for near miss accidents. First of all, I want to say again, this is customizable in your configuration menu. So if you want to ask different questions or change any of these questions, you absolutely can. But some of these you can indicate as being company confidential. This one right here, I just pointed out that near miss accidents, maybe that's something that I do want to track. I want to know when that happens. But if we were to send this progress report to the project owner, they don't really need to know about that. It's a near miss. It didn't actually happen. We can leave that off. That is going to be a company confidential line. In the web version, that is indicated by a little lock icon. Here in the Flex mobile app, it's going to be indicated by this little C in brackets. So just know if you see that, that's a confidential line. Only internal people are going to be able to read what information you put in there. But once I get my observations done, that is all the different parts of our progress report for today. That's how you're going to fill out your progress reports in the Flex mobile app. And did we have any questions so far?
No questions yet, Austin.
All right, perfect. So we'll keep on moving down. Next section is going to be the action items, which action items, again, are going to be the trackable kind of tasks that you can assign to one another, to other coworkers. If I had any, which I do have some, I have 5 listed here. I can click on it. I can view those. Looks like I've closed out a few of them already. I could say, looks like the second one here is to call the utility locating company. I called them. I could check that off and dismiss it, kind of mark it as completed. I could also create them from here. I could click the plus sign or click add next to the action item line. All right, but then we're going to hop down to the next section, which will be checklists. Now, these checklists can be set up and created in your configuration menu once again. Whatever kind of checklist you're using, like I said, the setup and configuration, you'd then be able to fill them out here on the mobile app. So I'll go ahead and we'll walk through one. We have a daily safety checklist on here that I like to do each day. I'll go ahead and click on that. It'll show me all of my previous ones. But I want to make a new one. So I'm going to click the plus sign. Once again, that daily safety checklist. We're going to get a new one created. Scrolling down, I can get any additional information entered in if I want to add a description, anything like that. We broke this checklist down into two sections: acceptable safety conditions and site observations. Let's go ahead and start working on that first section. I'll expand it with the arrows. I can go through and start answering my questions. This is a safety list. So essentially making sure everything's safe here. Electrical exposures. I could say those are all safe. We'll say yes to that. Fall protection. Essentially, is everyone on an elevated platform, are they wearing a safety harness? I'm going to say no on that one there. I saw someone not wearing it, but I said something to him and he put it on. We're good to go. So second part of that question, safety condition corrected and acceptable. I'm going to use that drop down to say yes. Like I said, he didn't have it on, but I said something. He put it on. We're good to go. Fire protection. Yes, we got all of our fire extinguishers. First aid kits, I go check them out. We're missing one. There's a first aid kit not there. Safety condition corrected and acceptable. Day's almost over. I go back to it. Still not a first aid kit. I don't have another one. I'm going to say no to this one right here. This is a little bit of an issue right here. If OSHA were to show up tomorrow, they're not going to be super happy about it. We're missing a first aid kit. I want to make sure we get this corrected. This is a good time for me to create a request for correction. Now, just to note, these requests for corrections can also be used for things like your punch list. We're going to use it today for this safety issue. So I can finish filling out my checklist from here, or I can just click save at the bottom. I'm going to come back to it and finish it later, but I want to go and create that request right now. So we're going to go back. And right below checklist will be the request for corrections. So we're going to expand that, and it's going to be all of the different types of requests that I can make. This is a safety issue. So I'm going to tap on safety, and we want to make a new one. So I'm going to click the plus sign here. So let's double check everything on here. It is a safety type. The responsible party, in all likelihood, it may be our company responsible for this, but I'm going to say it's one of our vendors. Extra Solar needs to make sure that we get this. So I'm going to select them. And then for the description, we'll just go missing first aid kit. Oh, I need to put in a location. Okay. All right. So I got sorry, skipped over a step there, but put in the location. So where on the job site is this happening? This is on the A deck. Once I get all that filled in, I can click save. Note there is the ability to add a photo. So if you want to take a picture of exactly what we're talking about here, in our case, it would be a picture of not a first aid kit. So I'm just going to not worry about that. So I'll click save. All right, it's going to create the request for correction for us. I can see it listed right up top here. From inside the app, I will be able to click the checkbox next to it. I'll see it as in just created or draft status, but I can go ahead and commit it right from here. So I'll click the checkbox and click commit, and it's now pending. So it now needs to be sent out. Sorry, it now needs to be sent out to the vendor. Unfortunately, you're not able to do that from our mobile apps. That will need to be done from the website. So anyone back on a computer, you can go there and email out that request for correction. Once that gets emailed, the vendor is going to get it. They're going to have a list of all the items that they need to get corrected. They will be able to mark these items as complete as they do them from that email. So they're going to get that email. There'll be an option. They can mark them as completed. Or maybe I run into the vendor on site. I see them and he comes up to me. He's like, hey, we got the first aid kit. We're all set. Perfect. I can mark it as completed on behalf of the vendor here in the mobile app. We'll click on that item. The date that I was told it was completed on, we'll just say today. I could add any notes to it, add a photo if I got one, and then click mark as completed. Now, just note, when you click this, this is the vendor saying they've completed it. I can now see that circle up at the top, that green circle says completed. That's the vendor saying they've done it. Not that I don't trust my vendors. I'm just going to not take their word for everything. I want to actually go and make sure that it has been done. In our case, that the first aid kit's there, that it's the right first aid kit, that we're all set. So now it is my responsibility, my turn, to go to the A deck, go to that missing first aid kit, make sure it's there. I can click on the item again, and now I am going to put in the date that I'm doing this, again today, and I have the ability to approve or reject it. So maybe it's the wrong first aid kit. It's not a certified first aid kit. I can reject that and say, hey, it's the wrong one, try again. Or hopefully it looks good, it's the right one, it's there, I can approve this. So vendor told me they did it, I went and checked it out, I approved it, we're all set. I can click that approve button, and that top item up there now has that blue dot next to it. It's been approved. If I had rejected it, that would essentially just have removed that the item was completed, put it back on the vendor's list of things for them to do, where they would then have to mark it as completed again for us to then go kind of restart that process there. All right, so we'll go back. Like I said, I could go back to my checklist, finish filling that out, but I'll take care of that later. We'll just keep moving down that list and just another stop for questions. Were there any questions so far on that?
I'm not seeing any questions.
All right, thank you. So we'll hop down once more into RFIs. So if I click the drop down, it's going to show all my different types of RFIs. Your app, your system may look a bit better than this, a little more organized. This is our training database. We have a bunch of different, as you can see, testing items on here. But I can see under request for information right here, that little one next to it, I do have an RFI on here. I could click on that to view it. View any other information. Let's see, it's been answered. If I clicked on it, I could view all that info there. Or I could go back and click the add button next to it. If I wanted to create a new RFI, I can create them from here as well, where really the same steps I'd go through creating it on the web version. I'd select my issue, put in the created date, the required date, who I'm sending it to, add a description. I can put in a reference number, ask my question, give a suggestion as well, and then add photos too. So if I wanted to take some job site photos and add that, I absolutely could, and then click save. Now, same thing with the request for corrections here. We're not able to email the RFIs out from the mobile app. So you would have to go into our web version and get them emailed from there, but you are able to create them from here, and you can also go in and view any previous ones as well. So you do have the access to information here. Now below RFIs, the rest of these options are really just viewing options, not any more creation options here. First one being submittals. We can see I have one submittal on the project. I could click on it, view the information. Looks like this one was approved. So I do have access to my submittals on here. I can also view the Gantt schedule. If I click on the last schedule update, it'll just tell me when that update was. If I were to click on that again, it would open up the actual Gantt schedule in my browser, so I could view the full Gantt schedule from here too. And then my plans and specs as well. I can view my plans and spec lists. I can search through, I can scroll through all my different pages, my different files, and then just click on one to view that page. And then last option or last setting button down here at the bottom, offline settings. This is a really cool option. I actually really like it. If you get to a job site and there is not good service at that site, if you're like, job sites are notorious for having poor cell service, before you get there, come in here, go ahead and turn that option on. Essentially what it's going to do is download a snapshot of the project. I'll still have full functionality. Everything that we just did, I'll still be able to do. Even these viewing options, I can still go to my plans and specs and look at any of my other plans here. I can create my progress report, make my request for correction. Whatever it is that we just did, that we just worked through, I'll still have that ability to, but I kind of exist in my own bubble right now. It's not uploading anything to the web version, and it's not downloading anything from the web to my phone because it's in this offline setting. It's essentially going to allow you to keep working without having a good service. You aren't going to have to sit there and wait on loading screens. With that being said, you leave the job site. You're going to want everything to upload. You get service again. Come in here and turn that setting off. That is going to push everything you've done on the web down to the mobile app, and everything done on the mobile app, push it up to our web version. So that will kind of sync everything at that point. Right. And that is about everything with the project portion of our mobile app here. If anyone has any questions, do feel free to put that in the Q&A section there. But we're going to go ahead and go back. I'm going to click that back button. Because then down at the bottom, I just wanted to go back to the main menu. We have the projects, time, and expenses. We'll take a look at how you can enter in time and expenses in our mobile app. So we'll do time first. It's the middle option. And it's going to bring you to your current timesheet. Mine is kind of old, but that's okay. Still work as a good example. And I need to put in new hours. We'll just say we're going to put in hours for this Friday here. I can tap on it. And there are two kind of different ways, or really one thing to think about with time and expenses, and that's going to be authorizations. With time, you could have a labor authorization. With expenses, you would have an expense authorization. Now, this can be done with or without authorizations. It's kind of up to how your company handles it and how you decide what's best for your company. Essentially, my labor, my expenses, my time, they need to be coded to the job as to what cost code are they going to go against. I could either do that on my end right now, or that could be done kind of on the back end, on the administrative side of things. Back at the office, someone could create a labor authorization for me. We'll work through both options right now. We'll first do it with the labor authorization. So I have an authorization made for me. All I need to do is select a project. So under project, I'll tap. I have my project here. We're going against this one. Everything else is done for me. All I need to do now is type in my hours. How many hours did I work on this project? And then click save. You can enter in multiple entries per day. So if I worked 4 hours at one project and 4 hours on a different project, I can indicate that. So that was with the authorization. Without the authorization, a couple extra steps. So we'll go back there. I'm entering in time for today. And if I don't have an authorization, instead of selecting a project, if I click on projects, there'll be no options there. I want to click on the option below that says labor authorization. And I want to create a new one. I'm essentially making my own authorization for today. So I'll click add new, where I will then need to search projects. So I'll need to say, what project is this going against? What scope is this going against? Below that would be the cost code. I would select the cost code that my time is going to go towards, the cost category, and or the labor category if those are being used as well. Once I have that filled out, I could then type in my hours at the bottom and click save. Like I said, that information needs to be told to the system. It can either be done on the administrative side back at the office or here in the mobile app, depending on how we're going to use that authorization. That's how you're going to get timesheets entered in. So we'll go back and take a look at the next one, which will be expenses. So when I click on that, it's going to show me all my previous expenses. I want to create a new one, so I'm going to click the plus sign. And first thing I want to mention, this is permission-based, so not everyone will be able to do this. But under type, there are two different types of expenses. You can do an overhead expense or a project expense. Overhead expense is actually pretty simple to do if you're able to do those and if that's what you're using. You really just need to select an expense category. These are set up in your configuration menu. Uh, set up your category. All right, what is this overhead expense? I had a lunch meeting. I took a client out for lunch. We talked about a potential job coming up. That's going to be a business expense. So I'm going to click OK on that where we had a lunch meeting. The date that we had the meeting, I type that in. The amount that it cost, I'll type that in. And then how I paid for it. You may have a couple options here when you select the paid by. I just have employee, but if you have a company card, that company card can be set up in the configuration menu and then can be issued to employees in their profile. If that was done for me, I would have a company card listed here. So I could say, hey, I used the company card to pay for this, or paid by employee is indicating I paid for this out of pocket. I need to be reimbursed for it. Then I need to type in a description where I could say, hey, took a client to lunch. We talked about the job. There we go. That's my description. And then add a photo. I can snap a photo of the receipt and upload that with my expense. That's how you're going to do an overhead expense. What is much more likely to be used will be a project expense. So up at the top, I'm going to select type again, and we're going to change that from overhead to project. Now, this is going to work a lot like we just saw with time in regards to the authorization, because you could have an expense authorization or not. You can still get them entered in either way, and we'll work through both ways. Kind of the same process we just saw too. First, we'll go through with the authorization. If I have an expense authorization, I'll be able to select a project. So I'll click on project, select the project that I have this expense for, click OK. It's going to fill in some other information for me where I just need to now enter in the amount, type in the amount that I've spent on this. I can see with an authorization, I have an open amount. I have another $9,000 in expenses that I'm going to be able to spend throughout this project. But I'll type in the amount that I spent on this one, how I paid for it, whether it's by myself or with a company card, enter in a description. So what did I buy? Why did I need it? And then take a photo or add a photo. I can snap a photo of the receipt from here and then click save. If you don't have an authorization, let me just go back, and create a new one here. Project expense. If we don't have an authorization, same thing we saw with the time. Instead of clicking on a project, I want to click on expense authorization and I want to make my own for today. I will then need to search projects. So I'll need to find that project, type in the name or number. What project is this going against? What scope of the project is it going against? Below that, I'll put in the cost code. What cost code is this expense going to hit? What cost category is it going to hit? Then I can fill in the date, the amount, how I paid for it, a description, and take a photo of the receipt. Then I can get that entered in at that time. I can go back from there. And that's really how you're going to create your expenses and timesheets in as well here in our mobile app. Right. And that is really about everything that I had planned to cover for today. Do we have any questions in the QA?
Not seeing any yet.
All right. Like I said, that was about everything. I'll wait on for a couple minutes. So if anyone does have a question, do feel free to type it in. We can go over that. If not, thank you all for being here, and we will speak to you next time. Have a great weekend. Oh, actually, do see a question. Can you please review the scan location tool again? Sure, absolutely. Let me share my screen again here. Okay, there we go. So back on the home screen, so we have the scan location button. This is all going to be set up on the web version. Uh, In there, it'll be under the progress tab. If you go to the progress tab, click on the manage icon, you'll be able to manage locations. You can create your locations from there. They're essentially kind of sub locations of the job site. So if you're building let's say an apartment complex, there's 4 different buildings of the complex. You could create building 1, 2, 3, 4. You could be more complicated than that if you want to as well. You could even make kind of sub locations. A lot of options there, but you'll essentially go in on the web version, like I said, progress tab, manage icon, and then go to manage locations, get your location set up. There will then be a view icon next to each location. You can view that location, which will just be a QR code. You would print that QR code out. The QR codes are those, kind of those square scannable codes that you see. I see restaurants using them all the time for menus now. But you can print out that QR code and post it on the actual job site. I've seen people post it in the physical locations or just have them all posted in the trailer. Wherever you want those, you can post those out. You would then come here, open up your app right from the home screen and click this scan location option, which will then just pop up with your camera. It'll open up your camera, and so you're just looking at my desk right now, or I can then scan that QR code. If I scan that QR code, it's going to take me to the request for corrections for that location. So let me just go back into the project. We looked at request for corrections a second ago. We'll go back to those safety issues. And I can see below each one, or I use the same example a lot. Below each one, it says missing first aid kit, ADEC, ADEC, ADEC. These are all, okay, I just used the ADEC. That's one of the locations. But what it will pop up to is this page with all of the requests for corrections from that location that you're in or that location that you just scanned. So if I had scanned the ADEC location in my case, it would look like this. If I had scanned a different location, it would have the different locations, request for corrections there. So it's really going to pop up this request for correction page. And then I could see all of mine have been approved, but kind of how we saw a few of them were pending. Let me go and check on those, see what the vendor's doing with that. One of them was completed, but I want to go make sure it was actually completed. So let me go do that now. So basically gives me an idea of where we're at request-wise in that area. All right, and that looks like the only question we had there. All right, so we'll go ahead and call it for today, guys. Again, thank you all for being here and look forward to speaking to everyone next time. Bye, everyone.